By now, you've heard me and other people in the marketing space say that landing pages are vital for people who are coming into your page to feel like there's a seamless transition between what they saw on the outside on social media or PPC ads or whatever, and what you're telling them on the page itself. But because that message has to be adapted every time, that can seem really overwhelming. But it doesn't have to be, because if you use landing page builders like Elementor on WordPress, you can do this very effectively and very easily. So today, I'm going to give you a quick overview of what a great landing page is, and then I'm going to walk you through the building of an actual landing page that will go live by the end of this video, and you can check it out in the description. It'll go straight to my website. So if that sounds good to you, make sure that you like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're into it, comment and tell me what builder you've been using and why you're going to switch to Elementor, and let's get started. Okay, so when we're talking about our setup, let's remember that our landing page is not our home page. So whereas a home page might be generally everything that you offer, this is something very specific based on what it is that you advertise or push for on social media or PPC or whatever, okay? So you're pushing something extremely specific here, and it's gonna be a very directed funnel. If you want a little more information on marketing funnels, you can check out this video here, but otherwise just understand that the idea here is to get people to click to the next point, and so you are putting information in at certain points that's going to get people closer and closer to taking the action that you want them to take. For this video, for setting up this page that I'm about to do, we're going to assume that this is a SaaS application, so it's software as a service, and we're going to have a goal of setting up a demo, okay? So that's the goal that I want to achieve by the end of this page. All right, so let's jump in. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to notice is that I am not on Elementor or WordPress. There's a reason for that, and the reason for that is that I believe in structuring a page very clearly before you put it onto the website and before you build it out. It's a much smoother way, in my opinion, to have this thing built out, because you have the copy the way you want it, you have the structure the way that you want it, and it just makes things a lot easier to work with, okay? So the structure of a typical page, it goes menu section at the top, so that's this up here where we have the name of my SaaS company, RubSpot, and we're going to explain what it does in just a minute. That's the whole point of the header. So we got the logo on the left side, we got the menu on the right side, with your call to action buttons. So that's what these bracketed areas right here are. So one call to action here for free trial, another one for login. Okay. So after that, the most important section, this is really the first thing that people see when they come to the page, is your headline. So you need to make sure that this header section is really in top shape. So some people prefer a subheader, some people don't. That's okay. But the most important part is this: rescue more dogs and collaborate better. You know what I'm talking about when I say rescue more dogs and collaborate better. And then if you don't even completely understand it, you just come to the next line. And what I'm telling you is that we at RubSpot help you connect with other dog adoption facilities to get the right dogs in your facility to increase the number of adoptions that happen, okay? So clearly you can see I've got dogs on the brain. And then the next thing that's really important is the get started button. So it's not that everybody's going to click on this get started button, but there are some people that are going to come to this website primed to free trial or primed to buy, okay? You want to give them the opportunity right here to do that. And if you're not giving them that opportunity, they're more likely to leave. So you need to make those buttons obvious and all over the place. So you're going to see that kind of peppered all over the place here. And then on the right side of this header section is just a description of the image that I want. So I want this image to span this section, but just here, I'm just kind of describing what that is. So I wouldn't worry about too much where the placement is for this point. You'll kind of see how that's broken out a little bit further down. So the next section is a little bit more description. So you've got somewhat of an idea. You're pulled in by what's said on the headline header section. Now this is a description. This is where you really land what it is that you are trying to sell to people, okay? It makes the argument about why it is that you want to be using this product. It makes it more deeply than the header did. So if anybody is convinced by the header, they're going to click through. If they're not quite convinced, they're going to scroll down, okay? And if you can have really important information right here, that is going to really help you to take them to the next level and get them to the next step, okay? But for people who even need more information than that, we're breaking down key features in these columns here. So you've got 3 columns. They're kind of broken across the page, but you can see we've got 3 columns. So this is a centralized system, easy collaboration, and total transparency. And I describe what that means. And then there's an image next to it. So why do I structure it this way? Why do I have image on the left and then image on the right and then image on the left again? The reason that I do this is because it breaks up the page and it makes it easier to read. So just think about when you are on a web page and it's just a block of text, or when you're reading an email that is just a block of text. Are you more likely to read that, or are you more likely to read an email that has one line and then a space and then the next line and then a space? You're going to keep going on that second one because it's much easier for you to read. It doesn't feel as overwhelming, and you don't get that initial like, oh my God, reaction. It's the same idea here. There's not a block of text. There's imagery to keep you engaged. So it's everything that we can do to keep you moving down the page, while also providing buttons at every single step as well, so that you can always decide if you want to click and go to that next step. Okay, so we're going to go a little bit further down here. So after these key features, now we're talking about who we are. Okay, so these are like our core values, this next 3-column area. So this company wants you to have more adoptions, or wants more adoptions in the US. This company wants happier humans, and this company wants you to be able to do that with less hassle. Make sense? And then of course the CTA button right after. Now the last thing, this is a form of social proof. So social proof is the showing that other people have gone through your system before and been successful. There's a bunch of different ways you can do this. You can do testimonials. You can use your social media this way. What I find very effective and very simplistic is to basically add FOMO with your social proof. So here I'm saying, find out what 50,000 rescues already know. What have I told people? 50,000 people in your industry are already using what you're using, okay? And then the next thing is going to be a bunch of logos of those rescues. So it's just a bunch of logos on the page, and that's it. These are recognizable to the people in that industry. And so those people are going to say, oh my gosh, people in my industry really know this. These are big names. I really like these names. I'm going to go for this. So that's the last really important thing on your page. There's also the footer area. I'm not saying the footer isn't important. It actually is a very important area of your page. I use it all the time, but we're not really covering that here because it doesn't really focus on that same directed flow that I'm trying to build out in Elementor. Okay. All right. So now we've got that down. Let's go ahead and jump over to my WordPress dashboard. So this is my back end. Welcome to levelmeup.com's back end. I'm just going to quickly create a new page. So just go pages, add new. Okay. So we're in Elementor now. This is kind of the default page that you see. You can see that that's your page title up there. My page title is RubSpot. You might have like a default Elementor number 2811 or something like that. So the first thing I typically want to do is just make sure that you can't see that, because that's not a very nice design element. So I go into the settings here, and you can keep the title there because you want to keep that there for SEO, okay? But otherwise, what you want to do here is just come down here to the hide title and just click hide title. So there you go, it's gone. All right, so now what we want to do is we have this section that kind of comes in on default, okay? So it's a little bit tricky, so just pay close attention to what exactly you're highlighting here, because you can see that there's a column that I'm highlighting if I'm here, but I can edit the entire section up here, okay? So what we want to do here is come to the section, the entire section, and we want to stretch that out because we're going to make a header section here with that information we talked about on the other page. So we're going to stretch this out as much as possible. So stretch the section, and we're going to make the content width full width. And so what that does is that now makes the column width full width and the section full width, okay? So now if I were to go in and stick in an image, so just come on over here, and I'm going to stick in this guy because he's adorable. Create a new gallery, and I just insert the gallery. So it's a slideshow, technically, but you just put one image in and it's fine. And there's no dots or anything that come up. It just is an image, okay? So that doesn't look like much yet. All right, so just stick with me for a few more minutes and you'll kind of see how this kind of plays out. So we're going to come over to the settings here. I'm going to go to heading, and I'm going to stick a heading right there. So let's just go over here and just copy what it is up here. So Command C and then Command V. So now we got to make that look good. I do want to tell you, make sure that you put that title information in the field on the left. Don't just slap it in over here, because if you slap it in over here, it's going to give you a bunch of coding that you don't necessarily want, and it's a lot harder to stylize it. Okay, so we're just going to come on back over here, and we're just going to put it right in there, okay? So you're also going to see that you kind of have to play in between them a little bit. So here I want to push the second part of this down to another line, so I have to go in the field itself and click enter to make that happen, okay? So I made it white because the background is kind of dark, and black is going to be a little bit difficult to see. We're going to come back on over here, and we're going to try try and change our styles around a little bit. I want a different style. So I'm going to change the family over here. I'm going to click this button. I'm going to move the size up a bit. And then I'm going to change the family over here to, let's see if we can go for Roboto. I like Roboto Slab, so we'll just change it to that. Great. Okay, so that's done. So that's the headline done. That's not everything we need to do here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to just add in another heading section here. Okay, so we've got the subheader here. We're going to make sure that that's H2, and we're going to just come on over here, and once again, we're going to copy this text. And we're just going to pop it right in here. And then we're going to enter these down to new lines like we were doing before. I'm going to drop the size of this because I think it's too big. We can change the text color. Let's get it a little bit lighter. Maybe not exactly the same. Well, you know what? Exactly the same. I think it looks good there. And you can kind of see how this process is going now. We kind of play with what looks good and how we're going to make everything fit. And, you know, if this was a real website, I might be looking at this and going, you know, that subheadline is just a bit too long and I might want to play with that. Or I'd like to play with the spacing here a little bit. So maybe I can go to advanced and I can change the margin value just on the top. And just give it 10 there. So that's a nice space there, nice and easy to adjust that. I'll give it a little 10 at the bottom as well, because now we're going to add a button in, okay? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back up to our grid, and we're going to select a button and just pop it right in there. And, you know, that doesn't look very good, okay? So we're going to stylize that quite a bit. So we're going to take the typography, we're going to get it back on track with that Roboto Slab. We're going to move that size up. Now you're going to notice there's an underline on that. I personally really don't like that underline. So we need to make sure that we're getting rid of that underline. So we need to go for text decoration, none. That'll get rid of that underline because text decoration is the CSS code that says, okay, this is a link, okay? Every time you see a link, it's because there's a text decoration on it. But if you say text decoration, none, no underline, you get rid of it. Nice and easy. So the next thing is the background color. So we can change the background color to anything we want. We'll just make it a blue because then that way it sticks out. I like buttons that hover. So in this style tab, I'm also going to go to box shadow here, and I'm just going to add a box shadow. You can already see it's there, but it doesn't really look that good with that background. So we're going to just change that to white for now. We can change where it is. So we can change the vertical blur. You see, that's pretty extreme, but I tend to like it to be a little bit down, and maybe what we can do is we can just change the opacity of that a little bit. So let's not make it so obvious. So maybe like that could be a little bit better. It's not great, but it looks okay. Okay, so you can kind of get the feeling for what that looks like. All right, so the last thing is this section is pretty much done, but you can't see the dog, right? That's just kind of the most important part. So it also is important to have a really nice and bold header. So it's okay to make this header bigger than it really needs to be. So let's go back up here to the header section, and we're going to add some padding on the top and the bottom. So let's first make sure that we unlink the values, because if you keep the values linked and you start increasing the size, you're going to see that everything squeezes in. You can see everything squeezing in. We don't really want that, okay? We want the top and the bottom, and the left and the right are just fine, okay? So let's go ahead and undo that. Let's just go for 0 here, and then we're going to unlink. And now on the top, let's just say 50, and the bottom will say 50. Not quite enough, so let's just see what 200 and 200 looks like. Okay, I like that a little bit better. So we'll stick with that. So that's the header section, nice and done. You can see that this is what it's basically going to look like. You know, a little bit different, but if we want to get a preview, we can go here. So here, you can see there's the menu on the top. It's a full width image. You can see the headline, the subheadline, and the CTA there, and it looks nice. But you can also see that there's more to see below that, right? So you don't want this header to go all the way to the bottom, because people might just think, well, that's it, okay? One other thing we didn't do here is this link. We didn't add a link there. Now, normally you would want to add a link. I'm not really linking this to anywhere, so I'm not too worried about that, okay? So the preview's looking good. Let's go ahead and add that next section. So the next section was a full length section. So we'll just go ahead and add a full length here. It doesn't need to be as wide as the other section, the header we just did, because this actually isn't gonna cover the whole page. because it doesn't need to. That was for attention grabbing and to really pull people in. Now that they're going down the page, if we can keep that margin there, it's more like a piece of paper. It's easier for people to read, okay? So let's go ahead and add a new item, and we're gonna add a heading here. Yes, it's still a heading. This is not the headline, but it is a lower form of headline, okay? So we're going to keep this in here. We're gonna change that typography to Roboto Slab. Now you can, if you're on the pro version, which this is, so just haven't done it, you can make a standard default template text, so you don't have to do this every time. But for now, we'll just go ahead and do this to keep it easy. So I'm going to keep this color the same because I think that looks good. It's not a harsh black. It's a nice gray. So here we'll just go ahead and center that, and then we'll just come back in here and grab this text. Boom. You're gonna see how easy this section really is. Just put that right there. We're gonna change the size of that a bit because that doesn't look too great. Next step, we're gonna take all that descriptive text here and we're gonna move that over here. So we just need to do a new grid section, and we're gonna take a text editor and just slap that right in there. Come on over here, paste that information in there. Let's make sure that we center it. So just come on over to Style, click Center. Let's go ahead and change the formatting a little bit because it doesn't look great. I think I'd actually like to squeeze this section in a little bit. I don't like that it's so much wider than everything else. So we're gonna go ahead and go to Advanced over here. And on this section in particular, we can add the margins on the left and the right. And let's just go for 20 on each side. Okay, so that section's almost done. We just gotta add the button. So what I'm gonna do here is I'm going to duplicate this button. So just right click on it here, duplicate. I'm just gonna grab this guy and move him here. And then I'm going to center him. Done, okay? Nice and done. That's super easy. So, section done. The next sections are gonna be those dancing columns. So we need to have this set up as a 2-column system. That way it knows to break the text up on one side and the image on the other side as you tell it, okay? So let's start with this. We've got 2 columns here. We're gonna go to the grid, and now we can add parts to the column. So we've got an image here. And I've got the images already, as you know, so I'll have that set up in just a second, but let's just go ahead and add the text first. So we need a headline element. We put it in there. Good to go. Let's just change the font style. All right, next we need a text editor, and we're just gonna add the text in there as well from this right here. Let's give that a little bit of space. So just like that. And then we want to put in another button, so we'll just copy this button again. Right click, duplicate, take you down here, centered, good to go, okay? Let's add a little bit of space there as well. Now we want to add our image in here. It's as simple as clicking on the image and choosing an image. So let's see, what do we want? We want this one for this. Insert that media. Let's see if we can size that down a little bit because that's a little bit too big here. So we're gonna go for, let's say medium, and see how that looks. Yeah, I think that looks okay. Let's maybe see if we can get it a little bit bigger. Okay, so that's a little bit better. Let's stick with that for a moment. All right, so let's duplicate this entire block. Great. Now we're going to take this column. Make sure that you're highlighting the column, not the elements inside the column. Take the column and we're just going to drag it over here, and it just switches them just like that. And so now all I have to do is change out the images. So for the image here, I'm just going to choose another image, insert that media. We're going to come over here and we're just going to change those text elements out. Now I'm going to duplicate this one up here again, just because I don't want to have to do all that switching. It's even lazier. So I'm just gonna right click, duplicate, and then I just have to drag it down one. We're gonna change this image to the GPS image. We're gonna stick you right here. All right, so we're almost there. We only have a little bit more to go. So let's just look at our build out page. We've got the 3 columns, another call to action button, and then this final FOMO/social proof section. So for this next section, it might actually seem to you like we need to just create 3 columns because we have 3 columns over there for 3 different values. But actually what's gonna happen is if you create 3 columns, but you just wanna duplicate the information, which is the fastest way to make this happen, what you're actually gonna end up doing is you're gonna have one column that's filled out, 2 blank columns, and then once you duplicate that one that's been filled out, it's going to actually create a 4th column. So rather than having 3 clean columns where it just copies one into the other, it just squeezes it a little bit. So it doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense to just create it as a single column and then duplicate it and move it onto the same row so that it squeezes in. So you'll see what I mean here. Let's go ahead and create a new column here. So it's just a single column. But before we drag anything into this, let's go to the grid and we're going to drag an intersection in. So this is like a section within a section. So we're putting that right in there. It's going to give you 2 to start off with. We can just go ahead and delete that second one. And now we're going to build out that section. So let's start with the image because this is our little icon guy. That's obviously gigantic. I'm going to just go ahead and drop it to thumbnail size for now. Okay, we got our puppy. Now we don't need to actually do any extra work for styling if we copy the stuff from this section. So let's go ahead and duplicate this and we're going to move this down here. All we'll need to really do is center him. So that's centered, and then we're going to take this one as well, and we're going to duplicate you, and we're going to put you right there. Now make sure that you're putting them in the inner section, the inner column section, because it can be kind of tricky when you're moving around. You're kind of moving them in between a bunch of different sections. Sometimes you can go outside of the section you want, and then it's just kind of a mess. So just be patient with it. Make sure that you're putting it in the right area. And actually you can see there that I think I put it in the wrong spot. So let me just move it right in there. Okay, so we've got them all in the same column section. So just a few things we need to do. Obviously we need to change the text. So we'll just go over here and we'll click there and we will change that. Okay, so that's done. Now we just need to add that to 2 more column sections. So the first, we're just going to duplicate it like this. I'm just going to duplicate it twice real quick, and then I'll just edit both of them at the same time. Okay, so you can see that that image is about right as far as size goes. Just need to change the text a little bit and change the image, and we're good to go. Okay, that section's done, nice and simple, but we're missing one thing, and that is a CTA button. So we're just going to go ahead and duplicate this guy again. We're going to duplicate it and we're going to put it inside the section, but not inside those 3 columns. Okay, so you just got to drag it a little bit further down so it goes across the entire thing, and it's there. Nice and easy, and we're ready to move on. So that section's done. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last section, which is this social proof section here. Okay, so we're going to need several sections here, probably like 6 or 8 different columns, because we're adding a bunch of images here that people can see and recognize. Okay, I'm just going to make them up. You'll just see a bunch of image icons in here, but you'll get the idea. So we're going to start a new section again. We're going to add it as a single column because it doesn't need to have more than 1 to start. And then we're going to add those inner columns again. So let's go ahead and just copy this again like we've been doing. So duplicate that guy and we're going to drag him down here. We're going to change the text and center him as always. We just got to add some images and just kind of move them about to make them look good here, and then the page is done. So we're looking really good here. So let's go ahead and go to the grid, add an image. I got a bunch of just silly icons to upload, just dogs. So we're gonna duplicate you. Let's go ahead and delete this column. I'm gonna go for 7 different images here, just so you can kind of get a feel for how this looks. But 7 on 1 row is a little bit too much, so we'll drag 1 down here. We're gonna delete this guy. We're gonna duplicate you and duplicate 1 more time. So that's kind of nice. We'll change the images here and we're good to go. Nice and easy. So you can see if those were clients, you'd be able to see bing, 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 bing. These are really big clients and nice and easy to see. Okay, and then you would add a footer at the bottom, but the footer is kind of a template general, so you don't really need to worry about that too much for this video. We can get into that later. There you go, guys. Very easy, as you've seen, to build out that website, that landing page really quickly. It's just a structured approach. All you have to do is understand how it works, and you can do it super fast every time. If you want to dig even deeper, make sure that you check out in my description the free guide to building out a landing page. Not only does it include everything here, but it also talks about SEO research and placement of your keywords so that you can get maximal effect out of this build out process. So make sure you check that out in my description. Meanwhile, if you like this video, make sure to give me a like, make sure to comment and let me know what builder you're using right now and why you're going to switch to Elementor. Make sure that you subscribe if you're into it, and I will catch you in the next one.